Hello, it is Nostalgia Egg here again. Now originally I wasn't intending on making another SML community related video immediately after the second one, but it was just recently brought to my attention that the primary subject of said video, who you all have come to know now as Davidplex, has since dropped his own video in response to mine, or rather, an exposed video on the text commentary YouTuber Puddle of Pizza that just so happens to mention allegations towards myself, as well as WHDude and Luigi Channel 50. Normally I wouldn't see the point in responding to a video such as that given it doesn't mention any of the points people have levied towards him and merely attempts to redirect the backlash onto people less deserving. But after having listened to what was actually said about myself in particular, I feel it is only right that I completely dismantle all of the downright dishonest and bad faith claims he has put towards my character, as well as highlight just how manipulative of a person he still is after all of these years. Though because he takes up a good 70% of the video's overall duration, I will not be touching on the majority of the allegations levied towards Puddle of Pizza, as they have nothing to do with me or anything that was presented in my video. But I will however include this response that he left in the video's comment section, and I will also leave a link in the description to both his Twitter thread and Google Doc clarifying his stances on the allegations levied towards him. I will first be going over the allegations that were included in David's video itself, but will also touch on the half-baked responses he gave towards the allegations of him defending Shawn Mays, none of which being featured in the actual video because of course they weren't.
Now, Nostalgia Egg is similar to Puddle of Pizza in a few ways. They both make unwatchable content. They both seem to have a crush on me, and last but certainly not least, they both defend Davidplex actions. In the case of Nostalgia Egg, it's kinda weird because he's not friends with Davidplex like Puddle of Pizza is, so any defense of these allegations isn't a defense of a friend, but rather something potentially darker, his own personal beliefs.
So right off the bat I would just like to point out how manipulative this framing of my channel and overall character is. He immediately starts off by trash-talking the quality of my content in order to paint the narrative that my videos are somehow unwatchable, and therefore should not be taken seriously regardless of how accurate the information itself may end up being. Even taking it a step further to suggest that my quote-unquote defenses of WHDude's actions are actually motivated by a more sinister narrative. This is not only a scummy way to try and dismantle a person's character before they even get the chance to present their side of the argument, but it is also blatantly dishonest for reasons you will come to learn soon. I feel this is worth pointing out now as it sets the stage for the level of dishonesty we are about to encounter, a level in which I've never covered before.
Here's a tweet of him shifting the goalposts regarding Davidplex. The main argument was not that Davidplex was a pedo.
Not only is this a very dishonest framing of what I actually posted regarding WHDude, but it's also a flat-out lie on David's behalf, as conversations dating back to April of 2020 showcase that he was openly arguing with both Puddle and myself over the possibility of Dub being a pedophile. And not only that, but the tweet he used in order to showcase me quote-unquote shifting the goalpost was in response to a larger thread that Puddle of Pizza posted, wherein he called David out for insinuating Dub was a pedophile without directly saying it. It was not something posted in defense of the things WHDude did, as I made it abundantly clear that his actions were still extremely degenerate and irresponsible, but rather, it was in response to David insinuating that Puddle was a loli defender, which was a claim that held little to no weight given that the example David presented was of a character that had no official canon age, nor looked like a child in the examples he showed. Now there was another example of him retweeting artwork of multiple different Inkling characters, but this was not presented in the initial thread that was posted, nor did it fall under the official definition of loli, which is stated to be of female characters in anime that look like minors regardless of their canonical age. If he actually did enough digging for the evidence he claimed to have, then he would have found messages such as this where I call WHDude a creep for liking porn of fictional characters, as well as commissioned artwork of himself being gender swapped, thus establishing that none of my arguments were made in defense of his actions, as I believed them to be wrong regardless of them being pedophilic or not. Why David would decide to leave out important context like that is a decision that I can only see as being motivated by a will to lie and deceive the public.
Here's a tweet of him getting mad that I said Davidplex was into lollies, because saying he's into lollies is going to be enough for idiots to think he's a pedo. The problem is that the statement he does not want to be said is true. Davidplex is into lollies. Anyone who comes to whatever conclusion after hearing that can believe what they want. If a YouTuber engages in such content, there's no fault in mentioning it and calling it out.
The problem with the argument that David is making here is that he's assuming that I'm agreeing with his definition of the word lolly when I've made it clear that all of my statements regarding the subject are going off of the main definition provided through sites like Wikipedia and California Business. The way in which he's using the word, however, is a slang term for underage characters in all animated media period, but that's something he only admitted to in DMs with Puddle after the video officially came out, thus making it near impossible for casual watchers to decipher what the criticisms towards Dub, Puddle, and myself even are. David's assumption is that the audience would automatically know the kind of content he's referring to when in actuality they don't, and are instead spreading the message that Dude is into legitimate lolicon material, as demonstrated by this video here.
Back in 2020, Dude was basically accused of being an EDP 445 on Twitter because he liked lolicon art. Now for starters, you're automatically an EDP, even if the characters are aged up in loli. If you're an EDP 445. For those of you who don't know what loli is, I'm just gonna hang on. Don't search it up, please don't. Honestly, he said as a statement, and also, to be honest, you're automatically an EDP if you search that stuff up.
David and Dark Gray both can pretend as if their uses of the word weren't intended to label Dub as a pedophile. But the fallout that has taken place as a result of their carelessness ultimately makes whatever goal they tried to accomplish worthless, as the popular narrative among the SML community now is that Dub is in fact a pedophile, which was the exact thing that I warned him of in that tweet he showed. And speaking of such, I don't understand how he manages to frame this as some sort of defense of Dude when it's clearly me telling him that his actions will eventually lead to Dub's friends getting falsely labeled as pedophile defenders. So this is merely just dishonest framing on his part, and only further demonstrates that his words cannot be trusted as far as you can throw them.
It all starts from this tweet. It appears he's warning of a pedophile returning to the internet. At first glance, you might admire his action. Child predation is a morally reprehensible act. There would be no problem if that's all that happened. In fact, I would have helped him as I've done before with situations like this. Though, in this case, he was categorically wrong. The account belonged to someone in the UK by the name of The Wolf is Awesome. He's a person who's engaged in harassment and threats. Oh, here's a screenshot of Puddle Pizza defending him. The guy he sent death threats to was a kid, by the way. Kind of crazy, though as I said before, it gets worse. Puddle Pizza doesn't inform his followers that what he said was factually incorrect, so I had to. That's right, I had to go into his replies and inform people that a pedophile wasn't actually back. Here I am explaining it to another replier. I even told Puddle Pizza himself, yet he chooses not to inform people. Now, he seems to disagree with me, which made very little sense. He shifts to blame many others and tries to act like I was targeting The Wolf is Awesome out of some sort of a personal vendetta. The problem is that this is a lie, because later we see Puddle Pizza admits it was him. Not only that, but he said that it was obvious the account was The Wolf is Awesome. This brings up two disturbing possibilities. Either Puddle Pizza is telling the truth and he actually knew the entire time. This would mean that he intentionally made a false pedophile allegation, with the reason being that he wanted to bait me. Now, that's the first possibility, and it's not great, though the other could be worse. It's possible he did believe it was the pedophile known as Shawn Mays, and intentionally let him roam in a server filled with kids. This server belonged to Pluigi Channel, and he's still mod to this day. After all these lies and deceiving, allowing such a person to have mod in your server is morally reprehensible.
Now, I don't want to harp on this point for too long given that Puddle and Luigi Channel themselves have already given their sides of the story, but I do however want to clarify what my involvement in this situation was, given that I was the person directly responsible for that account being allowed in the server. And while sure, I'm willing to acknowledge that my actions at that time were still very wrong and irresponsible, I ultimately don't think the incident itself was as bad as David is portraying it to be, given that the account was only added to a separate chat room that included myself, Puddle, as well as Dude, who were both there to moderate the conversation if need be. It was given zero methods to contact any of the other members besides us three, and was swiftly removed just before either Luigi Channel or his sister were able to witness the events that took place. So out of all the terrible arguments that he could have presented this time around, I really don't understand why he felt the need to dig this one up again when it had already been made fun of prior for being incredibly baseless and weak. The worst one can really say is that Puddle shouldn't have tried to bait David into calling him out by using an example that people didn't know the legitimacy of, but it's still nowhere close to being the morally reprehensible act that he claims. Though granted, I don't really think he has the right to call anyone's morality into question when he's the same guy that defended a pedophile, harassed Luigi Channel's at the time 13-year-old sister, debated the legitimacy of Puddle's suicide attempt, and worst of all, told a pedophile to make a video on one of his victims as a quote-unquote joke. So if there's anybody that would better deserve the label of morally reprehensible, I think the answer would be rather clear. And that's about all I have to add regarding David's video itself. So now it's time to go over the responses that he has given in regards to my video, as well as the numerous lies he has told regarding his defenses of Shawn Mays. These are the replies that he has given on both his Twitter and YouTube accounts, and it all essentially boils down to a convenient excuse of him not remembering the events that took place. Not only do I find this response to be rather untruthful given that he has tried using the same exact excuse before, but I don't really think it matters anyway since everyone's main point of contention is that he lied about what he did and tried to paint the narrative that Puddle and co were just making things up, when in actuality, the evidence that was gathered at the time was already enough to prove that David had a tendency of using autism as an excuse to defend Shawn's actions. But rather than just own up to the mistake he made, he instead thought it would be a smarter idea to double down on the notion that using Shawn's autism as an explanation for his actions wasn't actually an excuse. So even if I were to just take his points at face value, the fact that he was caught trying to deny his actions previously is enough to say that it doesn't matter what his intentions are currently, as he had already demonstrated a willingness to lie and deceive people in order to protect his own bottom line. Though he wouldn't even seem to agree with that interpretation either, given that he wanted to argue over what the official definition of a lie is, which is ultimately a semantics argument that doesn't change what the overall criticism is. And I find it very ironic that he seemingly cares so much about word definitions now when it benefits him, but was perfectly fine using the word so loosely before, even going as far as to make a video calling Puddle and Luigi channel liars for very minuscule reasons.
Look at this screenshot. It shows that Puddle Pizza has lied. Puddle Pizza has also said in the past that he always shows proof. Plus, Luigi channel said Puddle Pizza never lied in a video. I'm pretty sure that video is either unlisted or deleted. It was about me and Like Totally Donut because he said that we were being mean to Puddle Pizza, and this guy who said Puddle Pizza never lied. So you got 4 lies. One of them is from Luigi channel, the other one is from the egg guy, and 2 of them are from Puddle Pizza.
So when you take this all into account, it becomes rather clear that David is only just saying these things because his actions were exposed on a broader scale, and would otherwise just keep denying the evidence if he felt like he could still get away with it. This is why he reacted the way in which he did to the announcement of my video, and also why he's trying desperately to accuse me of being a loli defender despite the amount of evidence being lackluster at best. Nearly every single suspicion I had about his character being identical to what it was before became a proven fact the second he tried to threaten me into silence, just because I dared to make a video calling him out for his scummy behavior. So regardless of what he would like you to believe, David hasn't actually changed as a person. And he doesn't care about taking accountability for his actions unless he's put in a position in which he's forced to. He is only motivated by his petty vendettas against Puddle, Dub, and Luigi channel, and outright refuses to properly address any of the major criticisms against him. Though you shouldn't have to take my word for it, as the underwhelming performance of his video has since put him in a state of damage control to where he is now prone to blocking and silencing any dissenting voices, such as myself, the Sonic Hero, and a forgotten text-to-speech YouTuber by the name of User. He has also gone on record to accuse people of botting views, dislikes, and comment likes on his video upon release. But when asked to show proof of this actually happening, he of course decided to ignore the criticism. Hell, even the criticism posts that he did decide to leave up were merely just met with snark and the same automated message of him not reading anything. This was how he responded to my comment at first, as well as Puddle of Pizzas, aka the person he made the video on in the first place. And if you thought he somehow couldn't get any more pathetic than that, despite claiming to have blocked me and others for supposed spam in his comment section, he did not reinforce the same policy when it came to any of the voices whom agreed with his sentiment, even if they were also guilty of posting multiple comments under people's threads, with the most notorious of these examples being Mario at Ram Ranch, who is a user that has openly advocated for the destigmatization of pedophilia, B. falsely accused Isaac Tings and Corson Drax of being pedophiles themselves, and C. provided numerous defenses for Shawn Mays while framing the videos on him as being racially motivated, as well as the disgraced commentary YouTuber Mr. Sen, who was just recently exposed for lying about a catfish scandal that he was involved in many years ago. Now to David's slight credit, I have not seen him validate any of the claims that Ram Ranch has levied towards anyone in particular, but even still I don't think it's a very good look to have a guy like that around while simultaneously blocking legitimate criticism, nor should he be giving him the attention he desires by offering up his Discord. The Mr. Sen case in particular is even worse, as David not only decided to heart his comment about Puddle, but he also goes on to state that he doesn't actually know the truth of what happened, and was merely just regurgitating whatever Puddle had said about him. This isn't so much a display of scumbaggery, as it is just a really stupid thing to do and then admit to doing publicly. Without going into too much detail, Mr. Sen is a person that is notorious for falsely accusing people of being pedophiles with little to no evidence, who also happens to be friendly with a person that outright admitted to getting off to loli content. So if this person is who David would rather co-sign instead of the numerous people he's decided to block, then I think it should be made quite apparent that he does not have any consistency in his personal beliefs, and merely decided to make his video in order to spite Puddle, Dub, myself, and Luigi channel. Actually, that was something I already knew prior to working on this project. Now before I decide to end this video, I would just like to state for the record that unless David decides to take things a step further, I have no intentions of covering him on this channel again, as the sole purpose of my initial video was just simply to expose all of the lies he continuously doubled down on while still giving him the chance to finally apologize for all of his errors. This video wouldn't have even needed to exist if he just handled the situation in a more respectable manner, but you all know just as well as I do by now that regardless of his 3-year-long absence from YouTube, Davidplex is still the exact same person as he was before, and there's virtually nothing that I, or anyone else can do in order to change that. But I'll reiterate once more that my intent was just simply to bring all of his lies to a wider audience, and for the most part I think I've done a good job at achieving this while managing to come off level-headed. That is about all that I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching, and take care.